Pickaxe.
Welcome back to the Review of Death, your fortnightly home for Doctor Who news and reviews. I am Matthew Toffolo. I'm joined as ever by Billy Garrett John. Say hello.
G'day.
And this week we have an extra special guest all the way from the official Josh Snares YouTube channel. It's Josh Snares.
Hello, would you believe it? It's me. Hi.
How are you doing?
Unbelievable.
I am doing amazing. I'm so happy to be here. I am an active rodder. I can't have a week without a good old rod. So I'm very happy to finally be on the podcast.
Good.
So thank you so much for having me.
Josh, that kind of filth is not going to fly. I'm sorry. You need to tone it down a bit. that sort of filth is just not allowed on the podcast. I've never heard anything like that here before. No, welcome, Josh. It's a pleasure. This has been on the cards for us for ages. Like when we started, it was like, who's the one YouTuber that we don't despise that we want to have on, and it's like, it's Josh.
I'm so happy I made the cut.
Yeah, it's not a long list, but you made the cut. Also, it's Review of Death's second birthday. I couldn't believe it when I started putting my notes together. It will be our second birthday.
Yeah.
So I can't think of a better way to celebrate than having Josh on.
That's very exciting.
It shows how far we've come.
Oh,
Thank you very much.
Happy birthday, Billy. Well done.
Yes, well done, Matt. Well done. Our baby is too. It's not, it's not fallen down the stairs. Oh, why did I say that? Right. So the news. It's time for the news. We start, of course, with the biggest news.
Time, Josh.
I know.
In terms of the news.
I'm so excited.
This is fabulous. The biggest news, exceptionally well timed.
I'm going to say that someone at the BBC knew that this was happening and thought, oh, come on, let's give them a little bit of something extra.
I have a feeling I psychically predicted it because I uploaded a video on that day and I was like, I haven't been in the mood to do a YouTube video in ages. And then all of a sudden I was like, no, I want to do this one. So I did it and I uploaded it. And 2 hours later, they announced the Underwater Menace animation. So I think I willed it into the universe. It was all me.
So we got you to thank.
Yes. And you're welcome.
Josh is the Omni rumor. That is
I have Marco Polo.
Yeah, we believe it. Most of them are in Australia, aren't they?
Maybe.
So yeah, the big announcement was, of course, Underwater Menace out in November. Seemed to come out of nowhere unless you ignore the Daily Mirror article from January, which suggested we were going to get this, and maybe we're also due the Smugglers at some point. Who knows? Matt, we were kind of talking about that on messages. You seem to think that maybe we're leaving it a bit too late to get a second animated recon this year.
I think if Underwater Menace is coming out in November, I don't know. I can't imagine them squeezing Smugglers into December. I mean, maybe they will. I don't know. But it seems to me, it usually is like one a year. Or if it's two a year, they're pretty spread out. So maybe this one took a bit longer than they anticipated. But
it did. I mean, the original release of Underwater Menace came out in 2015. That was 8 years ago.
Exactly.
So it took them bloody ages to get around to it. It wouldn't be the Review of Death without something to complain about. I will just say now, just before we talk a little bit more about it, if you want to flip between the surviving episodes and the reconstruction, most people tend to watch the episodes. That's how I do it anyway.
Yeah.
You have to put disc 1 in for the animated reconstruction of episode 1, then disc 2 in to watch surviving episode 2 and 3, and then disc 1 back in to watch animated episode 4. So, they give us and they take away.
Yeah,
it
is annoying.
Crazy.
I think it's just that thing of the collection set will come out and it'll all be on one disc and you just live with it.
Exactly.
But anything's better
Josh,
than the original release.
It's going to be a hell of a lot better than the original release. Where was this, Josh, in your sort of anticipating things coming out or your list of things you really wanted to see?
I heard the rumors of it was going to be the Underwater Menace, but when the teaser came out, I was actually taken aback by it because I didn't expect it really. Because nobody tells me nothing because they know I would just say it on YouTube. I can't keep a secret. I hate it. But I was surprisingly really excited by the trailer. I thought, this actually looks really good. But maybe it's just because it's been so long since we've had one now that I'll take anything. Well, not everything.
That's a...
But,
yeah. Not not maybe something we're going to move on to later.
Maybe.
Yeah, no, it's it did sort of come out of left field, but it's nice to see. It did sort of feel like we were due something classic black and white related in the 60th anniversary year, because in terms of that sort of stuff, it's felt a bit thin on the ground. Yeah. You know, yes, it's great to have Doomsday, but I really want to focus on proper Doctor Who.
I don't think anyone's ever said it's great to have Doomsday. I think you're the first person to say that.
No, I mean, I was going to ask, is anyone on this call following it?
No.
No comment.
No comment.
Oh,
a very diplomatic way
that
of
could
be anything. I was going to give the comic that came with Doctor Who magazine a go, but even that, I've heard so many people say
you couldn't even be bothered. You read Doctor Who magazine anyway, and you couldn't even be bothered
to pick up the supplemental and read through it, because I've just heard that it's bad. So.
Oh no, that is terrible. I mean, Time Lord Victorious was a laugh, but you know, this is something else. Yeah. This is turned into a bit of a blot.
I think this will be the final nail in the coffin of let's try and do multimedia things. I think they're probably looking at the stats for this and just going, oh dear, this was a bit of a cock up. But never mind.
Yeah, it feels
goodwill
like
to all those who are enjoying it.
Of course, you nutters. The Doctor Who at 60 musical celebration was announced.
Yeah.
Radio 2 special, broadcasting from Millennium Centre in Cardiff in autumn, featuring music from pretty much everybody except Kef, which is a very cowardly move, in my opinion. But there you go. Another thing that's happening in the other hemisphere that I used to come from. How does it feel, you know, Josh, I'm starting to get this now, to be that far away from everything. Like, it hurts, doesn't it?
Oh, nothing happens here. Doctor Who doesn't exist in Australia. It doesn't exist at all. It's like, I remember when people were like on Twitter, they were complaining about Gallifrey 1 being in the US, and these are like UK fans. I'm like, there's a convention like every single month in the UK. Like, grow up, get over it. Like, I went to my first convention this year for the first time since 2013. We just don't have them.
Wow.
So, I got to meet Sophie, and it was just Sophie there. That was it. So, you know, which was amazing. I had a great time, but yeah, Billy, nothing happens down here. You miss out on everything.
Bonkers. It is upsetting. And also,
if it's any consolation, I'm in the same hemisphere and I can't get to go to the BFI events because they sell out too quickly. So
yeah, fair.
Well, you know, you just have to be quicker on it. It's like Glastonbury, those events. You just got to be quicker on the pulse, you know.
We were on the beach in Italy, and I checked Twitter, and everyone was like, oh, thank God I got those tickets for the 5 Doctors. I was like, oh, that was today? Shit. Oh, well, never mind. Shan't be seeing that.
You were at least sunning yourself in Italy. That's, you know.
Yeah, that must have been really hard.
That's nice.
Yeah, I was like, I mean, I feel like I was winning, to be fair. I mean, I've seen the 5 Doctors a million times. It doesn't matter how many new special effects you stick on it, it's still the 5 Doctors.
Those BFI events are great, though. Like, Josh, you should definitely time a visit to the UK with something like that, because they are a laugh. They're really good.
Yeah, I'm planning on timing my visit with like a Phantom Events one, because I think they're doing Utopia next year, and that's roughly when I want to go. But not confirmed yet. I still have to do my passport, which is a nightmare. Just let me in. Like, I watch Doctor Who. I'm basically English. My parents are both English, so just let me in.
Yeah.
Like, it's hard.
Yeah.
Come on.
It's like Australia is populated by English people anyway.
Yeah.
Like, that's where you guys came from, isn't it?
Yeah, well, we stole this land, you know. So, you know.
well, there's that as well. There is that as well. So, publication dates for the ebook editions of the 60th anniversary special novelizations might be an indication of when these episodes are airing. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but they're being published, the ebook editions, on consecutive Mondays from the 27th of November, which suggests we might get the Star Beast on the weekend of the 25th, Wild Blue Yonder on the 2nd of December, and The Giggle on the 9th of December. Does feel a bit weird now, thinking it's like almost imminent, or we'll start getting dates soon.
And I guess if they do that as well, it means the gap between the specials and Shooty's first episode is much shorter. So I can kind of see why they would want to do that.
Yeah, and it's around sort of Strictly time, although from what I've seen, it kind of means that Doctor Who might be ending around 9 o'clock in the evening, which I think might be kind of the latest that Doctor Who's run until, that I can think of.
Didn't we have a bit of that during the Capaldi era? I can remember there was just
because they didn't want anyone to watch it though.
Well, yeah, but there was like a lot of issues, wasn't there, about people were moaning that saying like, my children can't watch Doctor Who because it's on too late.
My children don't want to watch Doctor Who because he's old. I think might have been more realistic, but there we go. And Matt, something to just briefly touch on: Big Chief Studios have gone into liquidation. I'm sure a lot of people know they were responsible for producing, among other things, highly detailed 12-inch Doctor Who figurines.
1/6 scale.
Your thoughts on that, Matt, and your experiences like working with them, because you've got your name on some of the boxes as like a consultant.
Yeah, really sad, because now I'm not going to get my season 18 Tom Baker or my Colin Baker or my Master and all the figures that I worked on. So that's a bit of a kick in the balls. But yeah, I mean, it's a real shame. I mean, I feel incredibly sorry for all the people who had pre-orders with them and are now losing out on insane money because those pre-orders were expensive. And I've seen people saying like, "Oh, I've lost $1,000 because of this," and it's so difficult to try and get.
Why you don't pre-order anything? That's why you don't do it unless it's a Doctor Who release.
Do what I did and ingratiate your way into the company, sort of, and work for them, and then
get
all the freebies. So I mean, in that regard, it's terrible, and I feel sorry for the guys, working at the company because now they've all lost their jobs. I mean, it's just crap all round, really. Shit for the customers, shit for the company. So yeah, it's a shame because there was some cool stuff that was going to come out and it just won't see the light of day. And I think from what I've heard, like any stock or anything that was in production just has to go to landfill because that's just the way it all works. So, so don't expect to see any Tom Bakers turning up because that was supposed to come out at the end of the year. So I think that's it. Yeah.
Oh dear. I like the fact that immediately your thought was all my pre-orders, not those poor sculptors that have lost their jobs.
Well,
they'll find other work. Whatever.
Yeah, that's it. They're talented. They're very talented people.
Immensely. Right. Well, there we go. That was the news. Time
was that
to
it?
talk
I feel like
about...
there should have been more. I feel like we had.
Oh, is that not enough?
No. See, I thought there was more stuff going on. I listened to that Big Finish. There we are. That's news.
Oh, there you go. What did you, Josh? You've listened to A Genius for War as well.
Yes, I did listen to it. Do I remember much of it?
What did you think?
No, it was fine. I liked a lot of it, but like this whole like arc is just like nothing's happening. Nothing's going on. I felt like if it wasn't a part of the Once and Future, I think I would have liked it a lot more. If it was just a Seventh Doctor story, I think I would have liked it 10 times more.
Yeah. I've sort of forgot, like you said, that it was part of the arc, and then at the end, when they sort of were like, "Oh yeah," and this is happening, I was like, "Oh yeah." But Terry Malloy
like all the characters in it.
Yeah.
Terry Malloy was amazing. You're right, Matt. It's just frustrating that you get to the end of the thing, and they're like, "By the way, that thing that this whole thing, is like the thrust of this story. Can you tell me anything about it?" And the characters literally say, "No, we don't. And even if we did, we wouldn't tell you."
Yeah.
It's like, thanks very much. But the thing is, it wasn't a complete waste of an hour like the other ones sort of felt more like. Because, like you say, Josh, I thought it's the best one so far, I think. And I enjoyed it independently of the Once and Future thing. But then, as soon as you get a reference of, there's a bloke in a diamond in the sky and I've got to find out why I'm flitting between regenerations and you're not Patrick Troughton, it's
that is the
kind
worst thing. Is as soon as he starts talking, I'm like, who's he? And I'm like, wait, that's meant to be Patrick Troughton. Right, okay. That throws me. It's just like, just use the ones that are alive, please. Although Tim Treloar, he gets a pass because he's very good.
Yes, he's lovely as well. Tim Treloar's good fun. Well, from one poorly rendered Second Doctor to another, it is the Web of Fear. Now, the reason we're doing this is because it's been 2 years.
My yeses on.
Well done. Get your yetis out for the lads. There you go. The reason we're doing this is because it's 2 years since the Web of Fear animation came out.
Yeah.
And we said it in the first episode. We were very coy about it, but we basically asked each other, have we pre-ordered it? And we both said no.
Yeah.
And it was the first Doctor Who related bit of, guff that I bought in New Zealand. I was like, I got to get it at some point. We're going to talk about it. And it just seemed to make sense. It was written into Josh's contract that we had to talk about a missing episode. And so here we are. This is my first time watching the reconstruction. Josh, I imagine you've had a bit more time to let it kind of, sink in, like what you've actually witnessed.
Unfortunately, this is like the third or fourth time I have done it. I thought that the last time that was the last time ever. And then, of course, you forced me to do it again. You had a gun to my head and said, we're doing Web of Fear. Yeah, unfortunately, I've seen it too many times.
Too many times it's healthy. Matt.
Yes.
What was your history with this? Like, did you, Matt, get it in the kind of intervening years between then and now, or
what, the animated version?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I still haven't got the animated version.
I had a feeling that was going to happen. Right. So what did you do, you little turncoat? How did you watch this?
I just watched the original release that came out in 2013.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is what I have to work with, Josh. This is why.
But no one told me that was an option. I would have done that. I would have watched the Telesat Recon.
I would have done that. I would have saved myself.
I just thought, well, if you're gonna put yourselves through it, I might as well watch the sort of normal, decent version. To be fair, I did go. I went straight on YouTube and I watched as many clips of it as I could find to try and get a feel for what you guys were going through. So, yeah.
Well, let's talk about it. It's the elephant in the room. Let's get it out of the way.
Yeah.
We can blame the Australians for this as well, because it was an Australian studio called Shapeshifter that helmed the animation. And they had previously worked on The 10th Planet and Fury from the Deep, I believe, doing some sort of like last minute bits and bobs. Not obviously animating Fury from the Deep or 10th Planet from the ground up, but they did some work on those. What was your reaction, guys, when you first saw the trailer? Because I thought, it's an interesting idea. And that's sort of where it ends, really, isn't it? It's an interesting idea.
Where do we start?
Where?
When I first saw it, I was in shock at first because I couldn't believe this was like an official release. The problem with it is that it's clear that it's a production company's first go at it. It feels like a test. And I think I'm not against 3D. I'm not against the approach. It's just I don't think the models are up to scratch. It just doesn't look right. It looks...
Yeah.
My first thought was Roblox, and it hasn't really gone away. There's just a lot of... even when it comes to the motion capture, the movements are too much because they're like, oh, we need to move. We need to have constant movement. It's an animation. But then they overdo it. It's just I think the sets look great. I think the direction is somewhat good, but and I like the fact that it exists in a 3D space because the original does. So you can move cameras and stuff like that. You can match things better, but it's just the character models that just are not there. And many times they look terrifying. Like poor Anne Travers. If that actor's still alive, I'd sue. If that was me, I'd be like, how dare you?
Oh my word, Matt! What was your recollection and kind of watching the clips that you did? What was your feeling on it?
I mean, to try and start off with a positive, I agree with Josh. Like the sets look great, probably because they're static and they don't require human faces. They look great, and the camera movement. It feels like when you compare it to some of the other animations, it gives it a lot of fresh air and a burst of life that you just don't get with the other ones because they're so flat. So I liked that. But as soon as you start looking at the faces of characters and they start moving, at times when they move in a way that they're required to move, like, oh, we're pointing at this thing or whatever, you think that's fine. And it feels fairly fluid and you're like, okay, I can get along with this. But then it's like Josh said, as soon as they're just like, oh shit, we're filling time so quick, just move our arms around. It is just like, it's like puppets on a string. It's like someone's doing Thunderbirds and had a stroke partway through and the strings are just going like this and it's just like, what? So, I mean, I think as an idea, it has legs. I think, if they could finesse it, I wouldn't be completely against seeing them having another go at this.
Yeah.
But I think it needs to be like this story. It needs to be an episode that's in isolation. So it needs to be, they could have done it with the Crusade, basically.
Yeah.
That would have been a good time to sort of say, well, let's try it. But I guess, it was cheaper and easier and going to get less flack if they just did a screen grab reconstruction.
Yeah. I mean, to think that whole statement started with, I'll start with a positive.
And then it slowly just sent it.
That's the thing, though. I think as soon as you start to unpack it, it just, the criticism just builds. I mean, like, aesthetically, the first thing I thought was, it looked like this old PlayStation 2 game of Pop Idol that I used to play on the PS2. It's like frightening. I thought the likenesses looked okay, except Deborah Watling. Something I thought somebody pointed out in the Review of Death Discord, Jeremy, I think it was, suggested that it seems to be the character models from Fury from the Deep wrapped around 3D kind of meshes. Which I think is the problem. It's like it's not been designed from the ground up to be a 3D model, which seems to be an issue. There isn't just one issue, it's like, not only does it not look good as a single frame, as we've all said, the movement is crazy, because they've overcompensated, given the fact that the models can only blink and move their mouths.
Yeah.
Everyone just looks really edgy and really freaked out. There's instances where hands are clipping through each other, like different characters are sort of like clipping through one another. And so you're kind of left wondering, like, why was this done? And again, it's been mentioned. I think this is a test. It's a test to see, can you do it with no money and no time? And I would rather them have done this in their own time and not put it on a disc and then given it to us. Like, if you want to figure out if you can do it, figure it out first.
Yeah.
Because it's come out and it doesn't work, which is frustrating. I watched the making of on the Blu-ray, where I think he was the creative director of the studio was talking about it. I'm really struck by the wording he was using. He was saying stuff like, about how time consuming and costly it is to create traditional 2D cartoons and how the new motion capture system is going to change all of that. And it's an admirable thing to say, but only from the perspective of the people investing in the reconstructions.
Yes.
Like, not the consumer who gets given a subpar product compared to the previous efforts. Because traditional 2D animation takes time, because what you end up with looks better than this.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I feel like we can't just move on that quickly from talking about the animation, but has anybody else got anything to say about it? The Yeti look better in the, I don't know if it's loose cannon reconstruction, but in the photo reconstruction, the animated Yeti in that look better than they do in the cartoon.
Yeah, they do.
It's bonkers.
Yeah,
I think Skinner worked on that. All the CG stuff that's Skinner. Do you remember that Wheel in Space? Like it was like cut into like the style of Alien on YouTube. That's them.
Yeah.
Oh, so, right, okay.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. So all of that stuff looks great. They did some stuff on the Abominable Snowman as well, and that looks really good as well. But yeah.
I think going back to what you said, Billy, about the doing it as a test, I imagine that it was one of those instances where they had, the only way they could afford to do the test was, well, we need the budget from an actual release, so we're going to just have to bite the bullet and see what comes out the other end.
Poo,
yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, this is a broader conversation about the Web of Fear, so we'll park the animation for now, I think. We've kind of given it as much flack as I think it's due. Let's not kick a dead horse while it's down. So obviously this is missing, partly missing. Yep. Friday the 11th of October 2013. I still think one of the best days to be a Doctor Who fan in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
It was revealed 9 completely missing, previously partly missing episodes of Doctor Who being found. Do you remember when the news broke? Where were you?
I can't remember. At home, I guess.
Yeah, I think it would have been at school.
I remember waiting for them to drop on iTunes, but I don't remember the original announcement.
Yeah, the iTunes one's funny because I remember, you have to watch it immediately. Yes. I'm not going to wait for the DVDs to come out because I don't think we had a release date for the DVDs at that point.
No, I don't think so.
But they were like, they're going to be on iTunes straight away. So my dad jerry-rigged something that connected his iPod Classic to the TV with like component cables. And we binged all of Enemy of the World and all of the Web of Fear, which is a terrible thing to do. Absolutely awful. And, given the fact that Enemy of the World comes first, and I'm sure there is some aspect of this in the way people were viewing it at the time, that Enemy of the World kind of came out better in most people's appreciation than Web of Fear did.
Yeah.
Because Web of Fear has always been held up, in this very lofty position. But then because, Enemy of the World really shocked people, like, not shocked people is the wrong word, but surprised people, and people went, hey, this is a lot better than people have given it credit for.
Yeah.
I certainly remember that being the reaction.
Yeah, I've got more vivid memories of watching the iTunes downloads because it was here in this house. So this is my brother's house. My nephew had just been born, and he was upstairs, and my brother was like, right, I'm looking after the baby. But we were downstairs in the front room watching Enemy of the World, and every so often a baby would come in and be sat on his lap, and we'd be watching this story. So my poor sleep-deprived brother was watching Enemy of the World whilst looking after a newborn.
Parenting 101. Thank God they've turned up so well-rounded.
Yeah.
That's the exposure to black and white Doctor Who. That's what it'll do to you.
And he loves Patrick Troughton stories. We watched, so we were in Italy last week on holiday. We watched episodes 1 and 2 of The Moon Base in our Airbnb.
So episodes 2, 4, 5, and 6 were recovered from a stockroom in a Nigerian TV relay station, which is where the best TV is found, let's be honest. But episode 3 was reportedly stolen by a private collector en route to the UK. Whoever you are, I hope you're proud of yourself because you're the reason this animated reconstruction exists.
What a sad little life, Jane.
What a sad little life you lead. So according to Philip Morris, after news of his find leaked, some private collector made contact with a staff member at the Nigerian TV station, made them an offer to have episode 3 sent to them separately. Apparently because it's the Break's first appearance in the series.
Yeah.
Sure. Fine.
I mean, it makes sense.
Are we going to see it? Yeah, it makes sense. Are we going to see it at some point? I mean, there's been lots of chatter about private collectors, holding on to episodes of Doctor Who. Do you think, what would it take? Is it going to take the BBC dipping into their pockets and going, right, here you go. Here's many thousands of many pounds. Give it to us.
I think it's hard with private collectors because it's not always about money. A lot of the time it's due to the fact that no one else has it and they like that factor. So let's say if I had a film copy of a missing film or something or another iconic TV show, I could trade that for the Web of Fear 3 and they'd be happy with that. But when you're talking like money, it doesn't always translate because for them, it's not really about the material on it. It's the fact that no one else has it and that's it. So I don't know who took Web of Fear 3. Who knows if it was even there? Who knows if it was even like stolen? It could have just been lost in transit. I've been hearing that a lot recently, that it was just literally just lost in transit. But it's a more interesting story that someone stole it. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the truth is. But hopefully it comes back. I don't know.
I hope a private collector did take it, because if it did just get lost in transit, that would be the worst possible thing. Yeah.
Yeah. It just got lost again.
Yeah.
But it happens. Stuff gets lost in the mail. So who knows?
Yeah.
They're cursed. Nobody was meant to see any of these stories. Maybe that's it. Maybe there's a reason. Maybe they're just lost media is lost media for a reason because it's got a hex on it or some shit. Maybe we just never meant to see these things. So the story itself, like I said, I remember when it came out, everybody's always held up the Web of Fear as being this, monolith of the Second Doctor's era. And I kind of remember when it came out, people going, yeah, I mean, it's fine. It's a Second Doctor run around base under siege sort of thing. And so I went into this with a bit of a clearer sort of, I I didn't really have an opinion, actually, on the Web of Fear before I started watching it for this review. And I don't know if I have that strong of an opinion on it either way, coming out of the other end of it. I think it's grand, but I don't see the legacy that it carries particularly. Now that we've found most of it, it's a big runaround. I think it feels a bit disjointed, and I can't quite get a handle on what the plot is supposed to be beyond Yetis in the underground. I don't know. What do you, Matt? You've got a Yeti t-shirt on. I assume that you're a fan.
Yeah, I don't know. I got this when the BBC shop shut down, so I got it for like a £5. Yeah, I mean, I really like it. I love it, but I guess it's one of those things where you probably had to be there as a kid watching it for it to really have the impact. And I think what the story does well is the atmosphere. That's what really sells this story, more so than the plot, because like you said, the plot is pretty wafer thin. And I think that really shows when you get to episode 6, because once you get to episode 6, all of the build up and all of the mystique and all of the, could they be working for the Great Intelligence? Are they the intelligence? All that stuff, which I think is really well done. And I mean, Douglas Camfield directs this story beautifully, but then you get to episode 6 and it's just like, right, here's all the players in one brightly lit room, and it's just like, oh shit, we need to finish this story up because we've got the next one coming in next week. So and then it's just like, oh, here's a load of Yetis, they go a bit bonkers, and oh no, the intelligence escaped. Oh crumbs, well, off we go. And it's just like, oh, that's really anticlimactic. And I don't really get the intelligence's plan of just like, oh, I want to suck the Doctor's brains out. Well, you're a great intelligence. And yeah.
All right for some, eh? You're right, Matt. I mean, Josh, can you tell either of us? This really confused me. So they go on the whole story about there's somebody working for the intelligence here underground. And, obviously they pick on the Welsh guy first, and then they go to Staff because he's the most menacing looking out of all of them and gets the most kind of close-ups. And then it's the Mr. Chorley or whatever his name is, the reporter.
Yeah.
Do we actually find out who was planting that stuff in the first place? Was it Staff the whole time and I'm just being daft? Or what was going on there?
I think it was Staff because there was like a reference like earlier on where they tried to like put like him a red herring, but it was a bit more like specific. It was something along the lines of like, oh, how did you know that was there? And he was like, oh, I just guessed, or something like that. And then I think at that point they were very much, it's the only red herring where it's like, oh, actually that was like, doesn't make any sense for him to know that.
Yeah.
So I think it was him the whole time, but it is a bit confusing. I think the problem with the Web of Fear, its legacy, is because I think it suffers from the Space Museum syndrome, where the first episode is one of the best episodes of Doctor Who of all time. It is so well directed. It has so much atmosphere. And it doesn't always make a whole lot of sense. Like the stuff in the TARDIS with the web taking it over and stuff like that. I get a bit confused what's actually happening, but it's so good. And all the character stuff is so great that you're like, wow, I can't wait. I wish the rest of the story survived. Yeah. Because we had episode 1 for so long, since we had it since 1978. Like we've had Web of Fear episode 1 for a long time. So I think it just had a big legacy because that first episode. I think if Space Museum, if it was losing those 3 episodes, people will be clamoring for the Space Museum to come back. And now no one wants any of it. And they won't even put it on behind the sofa. They don't give a shit. So.
Oh yeah, they skipped that one, didn't they? Wow. Yeah.
I'm so mad.
Ouch.
But I mean, yeah, like you said, episode 1 is fantastic. That whole sequence. I don't know if is it in a museum or is it in that guy's house?
Yeah, I think it's a private collection. It was
going to be the British Museum.
Private collection.
Yeah,
tells you everything, doesn't it?
Quite well.
Yeah.
Yeah. If only one of those film cans would roll off the shelf and knock somebody on the head, and then maybe we'd get it back. I think it was going to be like everybody turned Doctor Who down for this story. The London Transport turned them down to use the Underground for film sequences. And then I think it was the Natural History Museum said, absolutely not, we're not bringing a fucking Yeti in here. Probably because the material it's made out of would give every actual animal in there, some horrible disease, and eat all its fur.
Yeah, they're probably more mothballed and eaten than the actual exhibits.
Exactly. I think that, as is the way with a lot of these stories that don't quite work for me, I think the trouble is the villain, really. The central villain. Yeah. The Yeti are the foot soldiers,
Yeah.
But the great intelligence, we've said already, what is their motivation? What is the plan? What's the Doctor trying to prevent? Because, it doesn't have a presence when it's not inhabiting somebody. So it kind of feels intangible.
Yeah.
And I get that's why you have the Yeti, but they don't do anything except stomp around and knock people on the head. They're a classic monster.
Yeah.
And the images of them in the underground are obviously iconic. And you were talking about episode 1 being, a peerless bit of telly, and I totally agree. I remember when the iTunes one came out, the moment where I was like, no, this is cracking, is episode 4 when you get the film sequence with the army and the Yeti fighting in Covent Garden. And that is like peak Douglas Camfield. It's peak classic Doctor Who from that era. And I think that's some of the best material that was recovered ultimately from this story.
Yeah.
Was actually being able to see that. It's so epic, and it's obviously, we'll maybe mention it later with the appearance of a certain character, but it is the template for what happens in 1970.
Yeah.
With the Doctor being stranded on Earth and UNIT coming to the fore.
But it is weird that they use Cybermen music over the Yeti.
Yeah.
It totally threw me off. What is going on?
Because the use of the music in this story is really, really good. It's very, very atmospheric. Because it's all stock music, I think.
Yeah, there's a couple of moments where it feels a bit incongruous. It feels sort of like, I'll just, we've come to the end of a scene, just turn the vinyl record down a bit. Nothing begins and ends in a scripted or composed fashion. It does feel a bit, all the soundscapes are different. All the textures and sounds are a bit different. But I
mean, like the stuff in the stuff in the collector's house, like that is scored so well.
Yeah.
And it's just, obviously it's shot beautifully. It's probably one of the best looking bits of 60s Doctor Who. It just looks amazing. But I think that music was actually used in The Shining as well later on. So maybe Stanley Kubrick
more
was
effectively here,
Doctor
I would
Who
argue.
fan. Pardon?
I can only imagine. I would say it's more effective here than in The Shining, but this is a lot creepier than The Shining.
Yeah, who cares about The Shining?
Yeah.
Yeah, who cares about The Shining when you've got something that's scarier looking like the animated reconstruction of episode 3? No, that's true. There are no Yeti in The Shining. The setting, the design for this, I think, is exceptional. Like, the location stuff especially. And, as is often the way when Doctor Who blends studio sequences with recorded film, it's so jarring, moving from videotape to 16mm or whatever they were shooting on. But because the lighting in this, it's literally just blacks and whites. There's very little shades of grey in there. It just knits it together so brilliantly. Like the stuff of the soldiers in the underground on videotape in the studio, and then you cut down to the other end of the tunnel, and the Yeti are coming down on film. It knits together fabulously.
Yeah.
But it was nice to get above ground in episode 4. I do feel like it gets a bit cramped and a bit, a bit too confined through the story.
Yeah. I mean, it works when it works. I think it's one of these stories where maybe 6 episodes is just too much for the little plot that there is. 6 episodes just seems to be like, okay, right, we're just treading water a bit here.
I think because it was probably written so fast, because the Abominable Snowman happened, they were like, let's bring back the Yeti in 2 or 3 serials times. So I think there wasn't much time to think of, how can we make the plot thicker? And let's be real, Padma Sambavar in Abominable Snowman really didn't have that much of a plan until a few episodes, episode 4 or 5, and they were like, I'm going to destroy the world now. And it's like, is that what you're planning on doing? I'm going to explode this mountain for some reason, So I think the Great Intelligence, I don't really know what their deal is in general.
No. And I don't really feel like they've got much of a MO when they come back in the new series.
No. They're just vaguely menacing. But I'm all for it. It's not a complaint. It's just an observation.
And going back to Padma Sambavar, if I pronounce that correctly,
a
much better character a much better representation for the intelligence than Staff Arnold, I think. I think that whole sequence in The Abominable Snowmen where the Doctor has that sort of battle of wills, and it's all windy and stormy and whatever, in the monastery. You compare that to episode 6 of this, where Staff Arnold's just suddenly dropped his accent, and it feels like he's just doing his best to try and speak RP. He's like, hello, I am the great intelligence, and I'm going to take your brain, Doctor. And I was just like, wow, this feels quite lame. It's such a shame.
Well, the interesting thing about that is, I forget the name of the fellow who plays Staff Arnold, but he spoke, that was his natural speaking voice. So I think what he wanted to do was have an accent through the episode that is completely different, so that when eventually he turns into the intelligence. Because on the Blu-ray, they've got reels of him doing different voice takes, like different variations on like, oh, this is what maybe this character could sound like. And his son kept these reels, and it's him practicing the lines at home, doing different voices for the Great Intelligence, which is really neat.
That's cool. Wow, that's amazing that something like that survives.
Yeah.
I know. That's why you should have got the bloody Blu-ray, Matt. It's worth it for that alone.
I'll wait for the collection set. It'll be all on there.
It will. Of course it will.
We might even have episode 3 by that point.
We can only hope. Let's cross our fingers. There is a great collection of characters in the story. You've already spoken about Staff Arnold, who is grand. But even the soldiers that usually get shafted in these stories and are given nothing interesting to do are in this story full of life and memorable. Yeah. Obviously, you've got Jack Watling as Travers, who plays an older Travers so well. Like, I love. It's so cool. And
it's great when you watch Downtime, because it's like it just works beautifully. It aligns. It's like, wow, he hasn't changed.
Yeah.
I've forgotten he was in Downtime. Mr. Chorley, who's the reporter, he's a slimy bugger. And,
he's great.
It is a bit like that kind of whodunit thing where, there's plenty of people that could be either taken over by the Great Intelligence, and it's like, oh no, gutted, that character's died, we've lost them, or it's Chorley, and it's like, we knew he was a wrong 'un from the start. Driver Evans, who's obviously a proper boyo and provides much of the comic relief, constantly calling himself stupid. Which is that classic thing. Obviously, somebody English has written this, putting down the Welsh. In fact, at one point, Pat calls him a stupid Welsh imbecile, I think.
Yes, I noticed that. I was like, oh.
Yes, he does, yeah.
I was like, come on, bloody hell. Welsh representation in Doctor Who has got so much better. We can be really thankful for that, at least. And, of course, Nicholas Courtney, with his first appearances as not Brigadier Lethbridge Stewart, Colonel Lethbridge Stewart. How do we feel about his inclusion in this story? Because, I mean, obviously he's not the Brig, and obviously, nobody there has any idea what legacy this character's going to have. But, there is something about him that makes me think, out of everybody here, he's the person I want to see come back. Yeah. Or he's the person I could see they might have looked at and gone, this dude's got legs. Yeah. We can do some more stuff with him. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, I think for a character that really feels on paper like they've been written into this script just to be like, oh, this is the one that we need to put all the suspicion on. Because the whole thing is like, oh, he just comes out of nowhere and all this kind of stuff. And I think even Nick sort of plays it in such a way that it's quite a refined performance, and he doesn't give a lot. Again, obviously to really build up the suspicion on his character. But what he does manage to do is that with certain lines and certain things, he just gives it like a little bit of a twinkle. I don't know how best to describe it, but he's just, certain lines come out and there's a sparkle in his eyes or a little smirk. And it's like, wow, there's a lot of character there that we're not seeing on the paper that he's injecting into it. And I think that's really what probably made people go, yeah, he could come back. He's got legs, like you said.
I think one of the things where I was like, oh, he's definitely coming back, where he works in Doctor Who, is that he's different to different people in the army. There was a bit where the Doctor wants the TARDIS back. He wants him to get it. And he's like, I don't believe you what you're talking about, but it's an option. and I'm going to take any option I can. And that is a through line from day dot to the Brigadier at the end, where he's like, I don't get it, I don't believe you, but it's our chance, so we may as well take it. So I thought that was smart, and I think that's why the Brigadier probably, or Colonel Lethbridge Stewart, stands out in the story because he has a different approach.
Yeah,
definitely. And that scene in particular, Josh, like when, because Captain Knight is there as well, and it's almost like, you know, obviously we're saying this retrospectively, but it's almost like you could take that as an audition for which one of these two is going to become a long-running character. And obviously it's the one that unequivocally is like, well, look, sure, you've got a blue box, let's go and check it out.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, oh, right, so he is the one that the Doctor's like, right, you've got more of a, you know, creative way about you, or whatever it is, you know, this is something different about you. On that, Pat is on his holes for episode 2. That's why he isn't there, bloody sunning himself, bloody Chancer in Ibiza. And that means it robs us with our first encounter between the Doctor and the Brigadier, because it happens off screen.
Yeah.
You know, the first time we see the pair, the Brig's already apprehended him. Plenty of, you know, real estate there for Big Finish to put in a 9-part box set where they go off on adventures between being apprehended off screen in episode 2 and appearing in episode 3. Let's cross our fingers it happens, eh? What else have we got, gang? What else are we thinking?
And Travers, she's excellent. She's a great character. And that whole sequence where, you know, Captain Knight and the other soldier sort of tease her about being a scientist, and she just really, you know, gives it to them in such a great way. You're like, yeah, you know, what a great character. I'm surprised she never came back either, to be honest.
Well, they wanted her to in the invasion, but I think she was busy, and that's why we got. What was her replacement character? Who's the one wearing the feather boa? You know, the photographer.
Oh God,
that's what the role was going to be. But yeah, I think she would have been really great, because like her and Pat are like flirting so much near the end of the story, and the chemistry between them is so good. And the little girl wants to be a scientist. They'd call it woke if that was on TV now. They'd be like, oh, cancel Doctor Who, it's so woke. But yeah, no, I loved Anne Travers. I wish she did come back. It feels weird that she didn't.
Yeah. You could even sort of imagine her being like Liz Shaw, really. You know,
I was going to say that. Yeah.
She could have had a real career at UNIT
easily. There's a lovely bit on the whole Travers thing. There's a lovely bit when, because obviously, you know, it's no secret, I'm sure lots of people know, that Jack Watling, who plays Travers, is Deborah Watling's real life dad. And there's that lovely bit where he bursts into like the room that Jamie and Victoria are getting interrogated in, and Jamie immediately has got his kind of hackles up and he's having a go at him, and they're having a yelling match, and Jamie doesn't realise who he is. And there's such a lovely smile on Deborah Watling's face when she realizes who it is.
Yeah,
it's just such a lovely little touch that I love that. It was a really, really nice little moment, and it helps. You know, there's obviously a chemistry there because they know each other.
Yeah.
So that's lovely to see.
I just love how he's such a curmudgeonly old bastard, Jack Travers. Particularly at the beginning of the story. He's like, oh, television, never watch it. Oh, the world's probably going to end, but, you know, we'll do what we can. And he's great.
All that stubborn old goat, all that stuff is just
so good.
Fabulous. It's so cool.
Yeah, it manages... What this story does do well is everyone always remembers it for, you know, being atmospheric and spooky and, you know, claustrophobic. But the comedy is great in this story. There's some really lovely moments. I mean, like you said, the Welsh guy and obviously Jack Watling. And yeah, it's just brilliant.
Something, again, I'm not overly kind of massive on is because of the subterranean setting. As I sort of said earlier, like, it's nice when you finally get out in episode 4, sorry, and it's like, oh, right, daylight. Oh my God, this is brilliant. You don't really ever get a sense of how things have been impacted across London. Like, I know you have the scene where they're going through the slides and the Briggs, you know, I mean, obviously I'm watching the animated version, so he's gesturing wildly with his arm. But he's all of that, dabbing crazy. So, you know, there's all of that going on. But, you know, I don't ever really feel like you get a sense that, like with the invasion, you know, where the streets are deserted and you get all these fantastic shots of Cybermen going right. You never really get a sense of how this has impacted London beyond the underground getting shut down.
Yeah.
It's just that guy, isn't it? The old man.
The old bloke who's been bukkakied,
Getting bukkake.
I had to get it in there. I don't know if I've got much else, gang. Like, what anybody got any interesting tidbits they want to bring up or bits and bobs?
The new Yeti are a definite improvement, I think, compared to before. And I think what is the Troughton's era? What is its fascination with foam and bubbles and stuff?
Yeah.
What is that about? When we were watching it, we're like, God, the Troughton era really loves bubbles and bubble bath foam. What's that about?
It's probably because it's just become cheap for them to buy in bulk.
Was it new?
The visual effects department.
Was this a new thing?
It's like the bubble wrap in Ark in Space, and everyone's like, what's this new space age material? We have to make everything out of it now. It's like, bubble wrap's been around for ages. Shut up. Come on. Go on, Josh, what have you got?
I wrote as well, I thought a weird parallel, which I've never noticed before, is that in the TARDIS, Victoria is wearing a dress and she found it in the TARDIS wardrobe. And then I was like, in Pyramids of Mars, Sarah finds Victoria's dress. So the question is, whose dress is Victoria wearing? Is it some weird timey-wimey thing that it's Sarah's dress and they just switched? It's a Big Finish audio right there. Any second now they're going to publish that, so we'll finally get an answer.
We've blown this shit wide open. You've heard it here first on the Review of Death podcast. That's mad. And what does that do to unit dating?
Yeah.
Oh God. Yeah.
Lesbian dating.
Crazy.
Think about it.
Coming soon from Big Finish Productions.
Yeah. I want a producer credit. Thank you very much.
You got it.
Why was Chorley allowed to be down there as a journalist? Like, surely it would be under wraps. Was that ever explained?
No, I don't really get that. I mean, I don't know where I read this, so maybe I made it up. But I think there's something I read online about he was going to be like a politician that's been sort of like given, he has to represent shit down there.
Right.
And then at the last minute, it was changed from him being a politician because immediately he would have been suspicious and being a scumbag.
Yeah.
But I think it's like, it must have changed last minute to him being a reporter. But he makes some mention, I think, in the story of like, out of all the reporters in London, probably, because you'd imagine just London has news reporters at that time. Out of all the reporters, I was chosen to be down here and cover it. And he got voted on by like loads of people. I think that's mentioned. Okay.
That's fine. I wasn't paying attention.
There we go. Well, there's that cleared up. It's obviously, as we said, it's a huge story, and it's one that looms large in its own legend and in Doctor Who's sort of canon generally. It was really interesting going back to it, not just obviously to kind of laugh at the animation and watch that in context, because it's such a funny little nugget in Doctor Who's like reconstructed history that they gave it a really good go and never tried it again. Which is it's a shame in many respects, but then you have to look at, I've just paid what, $15-20 for this. I think lost that here really,
I like to believe that as each animation it gets better and better, but I've noticed with some of the releases it's kind of like a roller coaster. Like some of them are better than some of them are not, and it's like, because I remember when like Power of the Daleks came out, I was like, it's just going to get better and better, because I thought Shada was an improvement. I thought Macra was a huge improvement, and then I felt with some of them are like ups and downs. So I'm like, in theory, if the Webberfear team, like Shapeshifter Studios, got to do another one, would it be better or would it be more of the same? Or would it somehow be worse? Because like a lot of people complain about the Fury from the Deep animation, but I think that's light years ahead of the Galaxy 4 one. I think they really step back. I don't know, because I was rewatching a bit of it and I was like, what happened? Like, what happened here? But
I think the problem with Galaxy 4, and I'm a little bit worried that Underwater Menace might be a bit like this, it just feels quite flat. It just doesn't feel like there's any depth for it. And Abominable Snowman was kind of the same. It just felt like you had these big sets, but everything just felt very flat. And kind of lifeless. It's really weird.
Yeah. I think I will always stand by. I know that obviously it helps for maybe selling them internationally if they want to put them on TV, but I don't understand this thing about this aversion to doing the animations in 4:3, because I think the problem is when you've got character models that, you know, maybe you don't want to get too close up to them, or, you know, you've only got so much space to use. Surely you're making it easier for yourself by just bringing it down into this sort of square box. And also, you know, there's it might challenge them a bit more. You know, I just sort of feel like this 16:9 thing kind of kneecaps it a bit.
Yeah.
And that's why it feels a bit lifeless, because they've got so much more screen real estate that they need to, you know, animate and make come to life. But yeah, I know what you mean, Matt. I'm getting a bit of a jitters over it. I think it's those shots of like the TARDIS team walking out of the box, and it's just so much space either side of the screen. Now, whether that's because they are going to do a black and white 4:3 version of it,
I
don't know.
Yeah.
Right, but it's like optimize it for one or the other, because you know you become painfully aware, like a lot of TV back in the day, where you'd have like lower thirds appearing on the bottom of the screen, and you know that they're doing it so they can crop it into 4:3, or you know, if you can only accept that kind of a signal.
Yeah,
it's that same sort of thing. It just doesn't quite mesh for me.
Like when we were shooting Might of the Daleks, we initially were like, should we do 16:9 safe? So that way we could do a color 16:9 version, but we would have to sacrifice so much in order to do it. And I was like, let's just do it 4:3 black and white, and it's intentional. And because like our set designer doesn't like black and white stuff, and I was like, this doesn't, I was like, all right, I'll do an edit for you. And then I looked at a few shots and I was like, I can't fix this, because when you're shooting in black and white, like you're shoving light on people to get really harsh contrast. And then as soon as you put it in color, everything's so bright and happy. And the story wasn't a bright and happy story. And I think they're having an issue as well when they're doing it in color and black and white. The black and white doesn't look that great and the color doesn't look that great. They need to make a decision. But the thing is, they're trying to please everyone. And so I get what they're doing. This is the best alternative they can make. They're like, all right, so we're going to please, if broadcasters want 16:9 in color, we're going to please the sad little Doctor Who fans like me to have it in black and white and 4:3. And this is their compromise. And you end up getting two products that aren't right.
Yeah.
That is so it, isn't it? It's like you either want a really faithful recreation that like the Cosgrove Hall invasion one was like, they stuck to the camera script, and it feels like a 60s production. I know that people weren't massively keen on the Ice Warriors for its art style. I really liked it, but it felt like a 60s TV production.
Yeah.
The Moonbase I thought was a perfect marriage of scope, because you've got a certain type of animation that maybe the rotoscoping and whatnot, and the art style was just great, but it does still feel a bit grounded, and this sort of feels a bit more like Flash animation. I don't know. I don't want to insult anybody, but Matt, you were going to say something.
I mean, it's interesting, isn't it, really? Because you mentioned the Moonbase, and obviously I just said I literally watched it the other day, and watching that animation, it really feels like 60s Doctor Who, and I think part of that is because it's a lot of close-ups and a lot of mid shots. They stay away from showing people's legs walking because, it's a bugger to animate and it looks weird. And I think they just need to... I don't know why they haven't learnt this by now. I'm not necessarily... I don't need to see them walking out of the TARDIS. I can see the TARDIS as a shot on its own and then cut to them coming out. I don't need to see their legs moving. So it's really weird. I don't know why they haven't learnt from these things. I still don't understand why we're in this situation, particularly now. I mean, obviously, I know we don't really know where the money's coming from with the Underwater Menace, because obviously it was all BBC America before, wasn't it? So, I can understand why they were like, right, we need to do it in colour for broadcast and all this sort of thing. But for something like this, it just sort of feels a bit like, well, why are you even bothering to animate episodes 2 and 3? If it's going to be a DVD or a Blu-ray release, why not just do the 2 and put more money into doing those 2 episodes and making them look really good?
I wonder if it's like would it be just cheaper to do all 4 than to do 2 of them? I don't know. Is that the case, Josh? Do you have any kind of input into that? Or
I was on Gallifrey base. I know, boo, hiss. And they were talking about the reason they did it was because like it was future proofing. They're like, if a streaming service or they did want to broadcast it on TV, they'd have a consistent product. They'd be like, because like going between animation and live action, yeah, us nerds, great, we love that, we're used to that, and that's what we expect. But the general audience, you know, they were like, why is it live action? Why is it animated? What's going on here? I'm stupid. I'm a dumb audience member. So that they want a consistent product they can sell because they think audiences are stupid. And maybe they are. Who knows? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not a broadcaster.
I think they're being very optimistic if they think anyone other than Doctor Who fans are going to want to be watching The Underwater Menace.
Yeah. I was going to say that. I mean, you kind of get it with like, you know, when they said, well, let's do the anime, because that's the way it seemed to go, was like, let's do the animations that we can put Daleks and Cybermen on the cover for.
Yeah.
You know, like doing power and evil and all that sort of stuff, which it blows my mind why Wheel in Space hasn't been done yet.
Yeah.
For that same reason. But
I wonder if that's just like a thing of like, oh, you know, this is the last one that we know really could sell because it's got Cybermen in it. So we have to keep it back because if we do it now, we've sort of blown our load and that's it. We're done.
Yeah. They kept Terror of the Zygons back on DVD for the same reason, I think. They made that like the last release. Yeah. And also it was weirdly symbolic because I think Terror of the Zygons was the last VHS release from the line. So it's weird how kind of cyclical that kind of thing is. But yeah, this isn't obviously the case, but it's almost that sort of thing where if a kid is going through, you know, their local supermarket or, you know, HMV and they see, and obviously this is the reason why they do the cartoons on the cover art, is that it stands out as being something different, but it's like, oh, it's a Doctor Who cartoon and it's got the Daleks in it.
Yeah.
And so that's the consistent product that you're talking about, isn't it, Josh? It's just like, you know, you get a Doctor Who cartoon. You know, yes, there are episodes on there that have survived, but that is secondary, you know, trying to patchwork them together. That's not the intention, is it?
Yeah, well, the fact that the episodes are in the special features, like the existing episodes are in special features, they are considered extras. The product is the animation. Everything else is extra. And that's very much like intentional, and like it may not be everyone's taste, but that's what they're planning. Well, they're not even going to restore the existing episodes. They said as well, like they're just the DVD ones. They've cleaned them up apparently, but they're not a new scan. They're going to leave that to the collection set. So there's even stuff like that, comments like that, where you're like, oh, so the collection set's going to be better because of course it will be. It's like, do you really want to buy that? If you're a sad git like me who loves missing episodes, I'm going to buy it. But like the Web of Fear, I didn't buy that for like a year or two, and I just got it when it was in a bargain bin, you know. But I might do the same with this one. I don't know. Maybe I'll be really sad and just buy it. Who knows?
I think I'm going to get it because, you know, the reason I buy everything.
Yeah.
Generally, you know, unless it's got a new series logo on it, I generally buy everything. And, you know, the exception to the rule was the Web of Fear because I was like, you know, unlike with this situation where you think, I want to give you money so that there's a bump in profits, however small, so that you make more. I voted with my wallet for that Web of Fear one and was like, I am not giving you money because I don't want you to think that I want more of this stuff.
Yeah, I did the exact same thing.
In this format. So that's why, kind of it became bargain bin fodder. Yeah. And ultimately that's exactly the same reason I picked it up.
And it felt so soon after the original release came out as well.
Yeah.
I mean, it probably wasn't. It was probably a few years, but it just felt like, oh, I'm just getting the same thing again. All right, okay, you're getting all the special features and stuff as well. But I mean, I was still a bit sore that we didn't get those on the initial release. And I guess that's just because they were like, we just want to get them out there. You know, we want to get them out to people and, you know, we know people will buy it regardless of what's on the discs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think I will.
Too well.
I think I've already pre-ordered Underwater Menace just to make up for that appalling release back in 2015.
Crazy. I remember being so sad seeing that because again, it was one of those things like, you know, it was one of the last, because I think the DVD range stopped in like, was it 2013? I think the DVD range, as it was the kind of classic
I think
range
so.
of grey artwork, stopped around then. And then, you know, but I have such fond memories of going into Asda on day of release before college and picking up whatever had just come out that month or that week or whatever it is, and having it in my backpack at school all day and like, right, I'm going to put this on as soon as I get back. I've got such fond memories of that. So when it came to an end, and then we're going to get another one, The Underwater Menace, go out, pick it up off the shelf, but it was such a lackluster, it was such a deflating release. It was just like, man, the state of the range at this point, and you know, obviously we didn't know anything about any plans for collection sets or you know, kind of the Master Series or whatever it was, you know, this kind of Ultimate Edition thing that most legacy media goes through, like the Bonds and all that sort of stuff. They get their big shiny re-releases. It'll be interesting to see how this sort of stuff is covered. It'll be interesting to see, you know, if anything does come back.
And I think
how
the other
it's
thing
all
was
collated
like,
together.
Wasn't the original Underwater Menace release, that was going to be animated, wasn't it? That was announced it was going to be animated. And obviously it was off the back of the Moonbase, and the Moonbase was so good, you know, it felt like, right, this is a whole new level of, like, they've got it. They know exactly how to animate these stories now. You know, we had a bit of a rocky start with Reign of Terror. 10th Planet was really good. Moonbase on another level. Wow, Underwater Menace is going to be great. And then, you know, to get what we finally ended up with, and with the Recon, which was just so bad. Like, unwatchable.
Josh, tell us a bit about that, Josh. What's the background behind that Underwater Menace release? What happened?
So Planet 55, who did Moonbase, was going to do it. I know it got as far as sets were designed. I know that was happening. I don't know if they were finished, but I know that happened. But I'm not sure exactly why it got cancelled. I'm sure I have an answer somewhere, but I've forgotten it.
I had a look online, and it seemed to me that whoever was animating it, and it looked. Online, I think it was the same people that did Ice Warriors went bust. But I mean, that's so disappointing. It almost feels like that kind of Poison Chalice thing with like with the James Bond video games. Any developer that does a Bond video game goes bust immediately after they go out, and it's like if you do a Doctor Who animation and you're an animation house, you got to make sure that you're, you know. But it wasn't entirely risky.
Doctor Who's fault. They also did this other animated series that wasn't IP related, and I think they got their budgeting wrong, and then they screwed themselves over. That's what I heard. I don't know if that's 100% true, but that's what I can recall. So, but yes, they did get the Doctor Who cursed. That kept happening. But thankfully, by the sounds of it, that's kind of stopped, you know, because, you know, this is the Anne-Marie Walsh team is working on the Underwater Menace.
Yes.
Sadly, without Rob Ritchie, which is really, really sad. His composing work.
Really gutting.
I think, like, even from, like, the trailer... Like, I was like, what's going on with... You know, because they released those images, those screen grabs, and, like, their faces were all compressed. And I was like, I hope that's just a weird image export problem. But, like, I'm like, wouldn't have happened under Rob. Wouldn't have happened under Rob. I'm sure the release would be brilliant, but, you know...
What would have definitely happened under Rob is we would have found out about this release 2 weeks ago at a convention. In some hotel meeting room somewhere, probably in Coventry. And then he would have immediately regretted saying anything. Can
I tell you something about the Evil of the Daleks? You know how those story, the animatics got leaked? You know, there was the two clips on YouTube, and I leaked it on my channel. Do you know they have Rob told me the BBC had a meeting about me, and I was like, wow, I'm like a threat. I thought that was so funny. I was like, that is the funniest thing ever. But I wasn't in trouble or anything, because it was like, obviously it wasn't my fault. I didn't hack into their servers. They literally uploaded it to YouTube, and I just reported it. But I thought that was very funny. I felt very glamorous and famous.
That's so funny. If there is a little black book, Josh, with your name on it in BBC HQ, we're almost certainly on that list as well.
Well, luckily we're all there together. You know? Yeah, I feel like the BBC doesn't like me, surely. I'm blacklisted. That's probably the reason why getting a passport is so hard. Like, you've got the BBC being like, don't let Josh in. Don't let him in.
I mean, the BBC are basically the civil service, so they've got connections, you know. They're like, make sure that person does not get on a flight. Can't be having that. Well, this is it's a brave new horizon. It's a whole new frontier we're moving into with these animations. Where do we think this money's coming from? Like, who's fronting this up? Like, it's really interesting. Do we think this is Disney chucking a couple of dimes, or do we think this is some private investor? Is it Big Finish Creative? Have they dipped into their pockets and put some money forward? You know,
it's all the money they're making from Doomsday.
They were really banking on Doomsday. We needed to fund these animations. The Smugglers cancelled.
Those Lady Christina box sets are finally paid off. Get in there. Well done, everybody. Well, I think that might be it. I mean, that was great fun. Josh, thanks so much for joining us.
No,
that was a
you.
real pleasure to have you with us. I believe it is customary to allow you to do some sort of a plug at this point. What would you like to plug?
I have a YouTube channel, Josh Snares, which is my name. So please look at that. Please watch Might of the Daleks. We spent a lot of money on it. No one's watching it anymore. Please watch that.
Amazing.
It was stunning. It was so good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I was really happy with that. It was so great to work with Aaron and that and go over Perth and film it. It was so much fun, like filming with actual Daleks and stuff. I'm really happy with it. It's like one of those projects where I'm like, oh, I can actually watch this and not cringe. So, But yeah, follow my YouTube channel. I'm on Twitter. Unfortunately, I'm addicted. Can't get off it. And yeah.
Wonderful. Next time, after a poll which garnered almost 400 responses, the viewers and listeners have decided our next review will be Time Flight.
Yeah, baby.
Annie is going to be so happy.
I know she's the only person that's going to be happy in this equation.
I said to her, because she was looking at the poll, and I was like, it's going to end up either being Time Flight or Nightmare in Silver. And I kind of wanted to watch Nightmare in Silver because we haven't done a Matt Smith story in a while, and Nightmare in Silver is only 45 minutes long. So I only get to be annoyed for that short amount of time. And she's like, oh, I can't watch Nightmare in Silver. It's got to be Time Flight. I reckon she rigged it. So that's probably her. So it was probably her 400
it probably is her. If she did rig it, she didn't do a very good job because only 2 votes separated Time Flight and the Nightmare in Silver. So that is going to be the one that comes up next. I couldn't believe it. It was so tight for a little while. It might have been Time Lash, which would have been almost as bad. But no, we're going to be doing Time Flight. So... what does Khalid say? Umba, Pumba, Mumbalore, all that stuff. That's my sign off.
Right, we've been cancelled.
Yeah, that's the end of the podcast. It was 2 years. 2 years is okay.
We got a good run out of it.
Well, yeah. In that case, I guess see you next time for Time Flight. Oh God, watch that.
God.
Why do you do this to us, Billy? Come on.
I greatly apologise. I should also say, in the meantime, go and check out the Patreon. That's Josh going to test. There's some good shit over there.
Yeah, I am a patron. I don't know what the right term is, but I'm there.
We'll take that.
Yeah.
That's my glowing review.
We're doing a commentary, aren't we, next? Is that the plan?
Ooh.
Oh, yeah. So we're going to do... we're doing one of Matt's old action figure adventures. That's going to be... amazing. We're doing the 10 Doctors. And then I think we might get Johnny in to do Bidding Adieu with us because I've been seeing some clips from Bidding Adieu going around and I'm really eager to see it because I have a slight feeling that maybe Sylv and Paul get a bit pissed at some point during it and sit in a hotel room and have a chat.
Yeah.
So I think we should probably, and it might be an opportunity for Johnny to exercise some of his demons over Sylv's costume because I think he criticises it. So... let's see.
Oh, there we go. Well, thank you again, Josh, for joining us. That was amazing.
Thank you.
And see you all next time for Time Flight. Probably won't see you because you probably have got better things to do. But see you then anyway.
I will find something to do.
Bye-bye.
Bye.